So earlier in the year, a lot of you asked me why I didn't review Godzilla vs. Kong, and honestly, it's because I really couldn't think of anything to say. Because this shit right here, it's an 11 out of 10 automatically, and it's shielded from all criticism. The stupid QAnon subplot that rooms Millie Bobby Brown's character that seems like they were making fun of conspiracy theorists only for them to be 100% right about everything? Boom. Terrible continuity between scenes, like how the Hong Kong fight starts in the dead of night and Mechagodzilla comes out at like noon? Boom. The fact that we have two sets of leads where one side is active in the plot occurring and the other is going on a random adventure, and at no point do they ever converge? Yeah, okay, maybe the punch can't really rectify that, but Godzilla being so fucking pissed that he vomits into the center of the earth as a fuck you? I'm sorry, 12 out of 10. Yeah, genuinely, it's because I could not find a single original thing to say about Godzilla vs. Kong that wouldn't just be 10 minutes of me gushing about how much fun I had in the movie, so I decided to put my efforts sort of elsewhere. And also is because I knew that Godzilla vs. Kong wasn't the only piece of Godzilla media we were getting this year. See, while Legendary Films was off making some of the best kaiju films of the modern era, Toho has mostly had their hands elsewhere. They produce or distribute so many anime films, from the Pokemon movies to Naruto to Detective Conan to Ghibli to just so damn much. They retired Godzilla after 2004's Godzilla Final Wars, waiting for the right opportunity to bring the big guy back. After the success of Legendary's first Godzilla, Toho decided to revive the brand, and I loved what they did. They got Hideki Anno, the creative mind behind Neon Genesis Evangelion, to reinvent Godzilla for the modern era, creating a monster that invokes the same fear the original did, but in a fully distinct way from any other version of the character. The Monsterverse films are great, and their Godzilla is one of my favorite iterations of this lovable goofball. But I always felt that there was something missing from this iteration of the character, and I believe it's that unique Japanese flair that's always been so central to his story. Gojira was written and directed by people who dealt with the aftermath of the atomic bomb. Godzilla himself was a reflection of that devastating damage, and the movie has a clear message on the use of weapons of mass destruction. Even as time went on and Godzilla went from a terrifying metaphor to that, Godzilla was always still uniquely Japanese. The return of Godzilla takes place during the height of the Cold War and has the United States and Russia arguing with the Japanese government, believing that the only way to stop Godzilla is to bomb Japan again. It is a super powerful moment that shows how the Cold War affected the entire world and stroked the fear of nuclear Armageddon from the perspective of the only nation that's had to deal with that devastation. In some versions, he helps defend soldiers during World War II. In one version, he is a physical manifestation of all the soldiers that were killed in World War II. Godzilla's ties to Japan are so much deeper than just him destroying Tokyo. So after the success of the first Monsterverse, Toho decided to revive the monster and work on new films themselves. The first of the group was Shin Godzilla, which is genuinely one of the best Godzilla films in the lineup and just an all-around incredible movie. But something important about Toho's contract with Legendary was that Toho could not produce a live-action Godzilla movie the same year Legendary releases one, which sucks, but it led to them finding new ways to leverage the brand. So for the first time in history, we got Godzilla presented to us as an anime. Toho made an anime trilogy, and they are some of the worst pieces of Godzilla media I've ever seen. The staff were given really weird sanctions for what they could and couldn't do. Like, they wanted to have the biggest Godzilla ever made, but they also didn't want him fighting another monster. So the whole time we just hear about these awesome fights, but almost all of the movies just really boring characters waxing philosophically.
Have you ever considered looking at it differently? You speak of God in the same way as the occult or fantasy. We can confirm God's existence by using mathematical equations.
Just shut the fuck up and punch something. So this time around, rather than making a trilogy of anime movies, Toho produced the brand new 13-episode anime to explore a new Godzilla. Godzilla has been adapted to TV in the past, but never actually as the next major project by Toho. This isn't Godzilla Singular Point, this is me making a point. Singular Point decides to change everything that we know about Godzilla and all of our kaiju pals to craft a new story that fits the new medium. Rather than 2 hours to explain what's going on, the show has 13 episodes, so roughly 4.5 hours. The pacing, as you would expect, is extremely different than what we're used to with a story like this. Hell, it's even an extremely different take than everything we've known in the franchise. Since coming back with Shin Godzilla, Toho has been giving the kaiju new origins for every iteration. Despite nuclear power being synonymous with Godzilla, seeing him with origins that are completely unrelated is oddly refreshing. The anime crafts a whole new set of rules for its world and ties it directly to Godzilla. The only thing is, you have to actually want to be invested invested in that story to get the most out of this show. The show knows that it's an anime and decides, oh, I can be as absolutely stupid as I want. And boy, does it! If you're coming in expecting this massive dumb kaiju on kaiju action, you won't find it here. Rather, way more of the focus is based on the cast of human characters trying to discover the mysteries of the kaiju attacks and how they're related to the red dust that's also covering the entire world. Our kaiju pals are also radically redesigning from what we're used to. Usually when you think of Godzilla's rogues gallery, we think of these larger-than-life creatures that can destroy a city with very little effort. Most of the time, the idea is to always create the largest version of the character possible to outclass what came before. And yeah, that's always awesome to see, but we've pretty much been getting those same variations of these characters for the past 67 years already. I really enjoyed how different the kaiju were because they still felt true to the design principles and ideas that made them classic and memorable, but still let them be brand new versions of these creatures. Seeing Rodan so small is extremely bizarre, but they're almost always shown in a flock, using their sheer numbers as a way to leverage the same kind of fear we would usually get in a single giant Rodan. Hell, one of my biggest praises for Singular Point is bringing back monsters that haven't been in the limelight for a while front and center. It is the 21st century, and Jet Jaguar is relevant again. Do you know how much I squealed when I saw Anguirus show up? My boy looks so good! As a longtime fan of the franchise, the smaller monsters were something I felt I had to get used to. I didn't hate them, but these creatures were always gargantuas who felt like they were otherworldly, godly creatures. Something so beyond this world that we could not fathom what could allow them to survive through time. Them being smaller makes them a bit less godly and a bit more monstery, if that makes sense. It did help sell Godzilla as this reality-breaking creature set to cause absolute devastation. Since he was the only real kaiju of the usual Godzilla size, it made him feel a lot more special. I found it interesting that they decided against giving him any sort of nuclear background, but the devastation he causes whenever he transforms leaves something that looks like a nuclear explosion. So it does still feel like the character we once knew and loved, while still making him feel special. But just because he felt special doesn't mean he felt unique. Honestly, an evolving Godzilla adapting to the world to make sure he can survive whatever's thrown at him really works at making Godzilla feel unbeatable.
So I'm mad at all of you because not a single one of you has told me that this sign has been spelled wrong the entire video.
I'm just gonna bend reality so it says the right thing. Tell me if you've heard this one before. A sea-dwelling creature makes landfall and starts transforming to come to land, consistently adapting to make sure he's the ultimate creature of destruction, being frozen in the middle of a city and giving humanity just enough time to formulate a plan to defeat him in just the nick of time. Yeah, the basic story is just Shin Godzilla. Just replace the bureaucracy with techno-jargon cell phone talk and you got it. But Singular Point is more than double the length of Shin Godzilla. To fill that time, you get a lot of theoretical physics and lore being thrown at you a millimeter a minute. Everything moves so fast and people say the dumbest things as explanations. And that is really an all or nothing and if you're gonna be invested in the characters and world or not. Like one conversation about future outcome and possibilities and you'll know if the show's for you or not. They take the stupid pseudoscience so far and so stupidly that it can be confusing on what's actually being said. The show goes out of its way to let you know that it's wearing the stupid on its sleeve. What's that doing there? A major revelation of the science of the show, something the world's top scientists have been struggling to figure out. Something it desperately needs you to take seriously in order for it to make sense is 6 = 9. 6 = 9 is the cornerstone of all of the science of the show. No, I'm not gonna give context for it. I don't even fully understand the context of it. But 6 = 9. 6 = 9. Thankfully, I like when things go full on stupid, so I was all in for whatever dumb thing the show was about to tell me. But I know it isn't for everyone. There are so many conversations that are literally just animated text conversations between our human protagonists, and for the wrong person, it could be annoying. But I happen to really like the human characters of this show. Maybe it's the character designs, maybe it's the art direction, but I feel a lot more attached to these characters than your usual Godzilla affair. The show likes to flex its budget, so the animators really went out of their way to give every character little quirks to make them feel more alive. Mei Kamino is a nervous grad student that is like the only person understanding the science behind Godzilla's farts. There is a scene where she uses a whiteboard to explain what's going on, and while talking, she's constantly fidgeting with the marker, popping the cap constantly as if it's a natural tick. And as someone clicking a pen while writing this, I fully understand. It is a small detail that means nothing in the long run, but it shows the attention to detail that went into making sure every character is a memorable addition to the cast. Seriously, I never remember the characters' names in a Godzilla movie, and the fact that I remember her name without having to look her up at all, I think says a lot about how cool these characters are. They're all designed by the artist behind _Exorcist, and each design pops out so you know exactly what kind of character they were before they were even introduced. The actual 2D animation was done by Bones, the same studio that does My Hero Academia, and just like that show, the opening is absolute fire. The kaiju were 3D animated, done by Orange, the studio behind Beastars. The clashing art styles on paper sounds terrible, but in practice, it is so well done. Since they don't have the massive size, the 3D animation helps differentiate the kaiju from what we're used to in the human story, while still making them feel like otherworldly beings. Really, all the art direction of this show is gorgeous. The red dust creates such a unique identifier for the kaiju, like a physical representation of the devastation of these creatures, feeling like the radiation that usually emanates off of them. Godzilla Singular Point sadly isn't for everybody, but if it is for you, you are gonna have the time of your life. It is pure, unadulterated anime in the best way. If you want giant kaiju fighting each other, you're not gonna find it here, but you have Godzilla vs. Kong and the rest of the Monsterverse for that, so it's not that big a deal. However, if you want just a really short and stupid anime to hold you over for a weekend, this is an absolute perfect fit. Anyway, my name is Leo. If you liked this video, click this. If you want to see more, click this. I'm gonna stare directly into the camera while drinking this water to make it really awkward for you while you're waiting. Why are you still here?